Does the show attack?
Joining me from San Francisco to help us make sense of it all, activist for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Richard Esguerra is here. Welcome, Richard. How are you, sir?
Hey there. I'm doing all right.
Walk us through what went down at the Department of Justice yesterday.
Sure. Well, yesterday, basically, there were members of Congress that are sort of interested in a mandatory data retention law, basically a law that would make it so ISPs and maybe other internet service people have to hold on to information about what people do on the internet. So they're interested in this law, and so they invited people to come and talk about it.
And who came to speak, and what exactly did they have to say?
Well, so there were a few different groups came to speak, including a representative from the Department of Justice. As you heard, I think someone representing cops sort of from Kansas, and then also someone from the ISP, someone representing ISPs, and then also someone representing the civil liberties side from the Center for Democracy and Technology.
Did Creepy Dave from the IT department show up and pull out his hair? Because I imagine being told to retain 2 years of data would be costly and time-consuming and a real headache for engineers. Yeah,
well, I mean, that was basically a huge part of what the ISPs had to say, which is that, you know, that's a huge quantity of data. It's going to be just a logistical, technical nightmare to start not only just storing it, but also making it so there was infrastructure to look through it when law enforcement came and asked for stuff, and just all the supporting stuff that would be required for it would be tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Now, when they say, Richard, when they say they want you guys, ISPs or OSPs, to retain user data, what are they talking about exactly? Are they talking about user activity? Are they talking about every single packet that gets sent through a website or filtered through a router?
Well, so yeah, they were kind of short on specifics yesterday, but really we're talking about sort of a history of proposed laws. And most of them have this thing in them where they want to hold on to IP address allocation. So an IP address and then which subscriber sort of has it for that period of time. But there have been other proposals that have been floated that have gotten much broader than that and kind of seem to target who you might be talking to online or what websites you might be visiting. So even though the legislation hasn't really been drawn up yet, we've seen proposals that have gone that far.
And Richard, what is the harm, to play devil's advocate then, what is the harm in an ISP holding on to that information? I'm an end user here. They're clearly tracking my browsing history. I'm embarrassed of what I browsed 2 days ago, let alone 2 years ago. But can that be used against me? Where's the opportunity for misuse here?
Well, sure. So whenever you create a huge body of data like this, we kind of like to say that it creates a honeypot. And it's a honeypot because everyone wants to get access to it.
Sounds delicious. Where's the harm?
Well, basically, you have a whole bunch of people that want to get access to that data. So, for example, in some time from now, you end up in a lawsuit, and your insurance company goes looking for what you were looking at online, or maybe a divorce lawyer goes, on the other side, goes looking for what you were doing online. So that's just one example. Mm-hmm. Another example is that malicious hackers are going to take a look at that and say, hey, ISPs have to store all this data. So if I make a successful hack here, there's going to be something at the end of there that's going to be valuable. I can get a whole lot of it.
You're guaranteed 2 years of incredible data. But now, if I run a Wi-Fi access point in my house and my neighbor downloads a naughty picture from 4chan, can 2 years later I potentially be brought up on charges because of that?
Well, if the ISPs have that data, then and it's of the kind of thing that they're talking about, IP addresses and IP allocations, the only place for that letter or for that investigation to go is to your house. So it's different how it may turn out, but
sure.
Presumably you could kind of see a situation like that happening, yeah.
Now, back in 2008, you guys, the EFF, you sent out guidelines to ISPs or OSPs and said, hey, there's no law saying you have to retain this data. Get rid of it. It's actually better for your end users, better for security. And yesterday, you guys got sort of name-checked by the Deputy Assistant Attorney General. He cited those guidelines as a reason that we need to these data retention laws. Was there a spit take in the office? Do you guys rip off shirts and pop champagne? Like, how does the EFF react to getting name-checked like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, yesterday we were kind of tracking the hearing a little bit. We saw a little bit of chatter on Twitter that said they called us out. And so really for us it was like, oh, wow, well, we put out this thing about privacy. It's really about asking internet companies to be able to do a little better with our privacy. And so immediately then we just sort of started crafting the response, trying to say, hey, this is kind of a disproportionate response, and
Right.
We're just here to talk about privacy.
Well, Richard, what should my response be? Like for our audience who can't live without red wine and chat roulette on the weekends, what can we do to voice our opposition to something like this?
Well, so for the time being, I mean, the best thing is to probably write your member of Congress, let them know that data retention is being discussed and that it's a bad idea. But then, in the coming weeks, we're probably going to see actual legislation sort of proposed. We're going to see votes. And to keep an eye on all that, you should just sort of tune into EFF.org. And, we'll be letting you know when there's a big vote and when, people really need to get out there and let their congresspeople know that this is not something we want.
All right, Richard Esquerra from the EFF, sir, thank you for keeping us in the loop, providing that knowledge. Seriously, we appreciate your time.